Hey everybody, welcome. It's Ty Hicks. I'm very excited to be talking with you today. And today what we're going to be chatting about are two major reasons why regular therapy and counseling are very often not effective for people who are dealing with depression and anxiety. And I just want to be very clear right before we get started. I have nothing against therapists and counselors. I think that they're trying to do very amazing work. They care deeply for their clients, and they really are doing the very best that they can with the strategies and insights that they have. The problem is that, if we're really going to serve the next generation of human beings out there that are struggling with depression and anxiety, we have to call out the facts for what they are. And the facts are that most people who end up going to traditional therapy or counseling do not get strong or lasting results. It's just been my experience working many years in this industry and working with tens of thousands of individuals that have dealt with depression or anxiety to some extent. And it's just a very unfortunate phenomenon that I've seen. But out of the clients that we take on, for example, at least 9 in 10 have indicated that regular therapy or counseling may have helped them a little bit, may have helped them cope with their issue, may have helped them get through the weeks a little bit better, but never really helped them really understand what the real source of their problem was and how to actually turn it around. And there are two major reasons why traditional therapy and counseling is just ineffective. And we need to chat about these because there's no way that people can get the help that they really need unless we call out the truth for what it is. So the first major reason is that therapists and counselors are trained in a way of addressing issues with their clients that is fundamentally based on a fallacy. And this is what I have talked about. You may have heard me talk about this in other videos, but this is the broken patient myth. The idea that people who have depression or anxiety or OCD or even PTSD are going to be permanently debilitated to some extent or another with their condition. And most therapists and counselors would probably not say these words verbatim, but they do fundamentally believe in their bones that the people they're working with are going to be dealing with their issue for the rest of their life. And the therapist and counselor therefore views their role and their ability to help the person change as only peripheral. They literally believe that they can only help the client learn how to cope with the issue or minimize the pain or just kind of get through their life a little bit easier. And they may even think that major strides can be made, but the problem is therapists and counselors look at the problem in fundamentally unsolvable terms because they are viewing depression, anxiety, and these other conditions as permanent diseases of the mind that are going to be with the patient for for the rest of their life to some extent or another. And that's just not the case. What we know and what we have shown with our case studies and what we've shown with our proven process to help people eliminate depression and anxiety in 60 days is that this is not the case. Regardless of whether you're suicidal, regardless of whether you've been dealing with issues for 20 plus years, doesn't matter how serious of depression or anxiety it is that you have, or even trauma or OCD, these things can be turned around in a relatively short period of time and in a way that lasts when you are looking at the problem from solvable terms. And the solvable terms through which we define the problem is that these very unfortunate, very real psychological conditions that are happening with people that cause them very serious pain are not being consciously chosen by the clients. This is not to say that they are choosing to be depressed, okay? But that does not mean that the pattern that has emerged for depression or anxiety cannot be reversed. And so when we start to look at the truth of the matter, which is that depression and anxiety are temporary, reversible subconscious patterns that can be interrupted and replaced, then all of a sudden we enter into a world where we can actually create lasting change for people. And so long as we're ascribing to the broken patient myth, which probably 99 out of 100 therapists or counselors believe, you're not going to be able to get real change. If you're going to a doctor and your leg is broken and the doctor believes that your leg is still always going to fundamentally be somewhat broken, you're of course never going to get the real help that you need to actually turn around the issue. That is just common sense, right? If your doctor doesn't have certainty that the actual problem can be resolved, the problem's not going to get resolved. And that's just how it goes. And then you're going to develop certainty over a period of time of interacting with them, either subconsciously or consciously, that real change is not going to be possible for you either. So the broken patient myth is the number one big reason why traditional therapy and counseling does not serve people and does not get them robust and lasting results. Now, the second big reason comes from the fact that therapists and counselors are trained in a basic principle that has been the foundation of psychological thought for probably over 100 years to some extent or another, which is this idea of engaging in what's called non-directive therapy. Now, this goes all the way back to Sigmund Freud, probably even before him to some extent, but Freud is probably the one most notable for it. This idea is one where the therapist views their role with the patient as being one where the patient has to arrive at all of the answers on their own, or the vast majority of the answers on their own. And what that means is that the therapist can simply only be a mirror for the patient, and that the therapist can simply only create a space in which the patient can freely speak about their ideas and their thoughts and what's troubling them, and hopefully arrive at new conclusions on their own. So this is what Freud called free association, which is probably a term you remember from your 7th grade psychology class. And the idea there, of course, is that you sit on the couch, you talk about your issues, and eventually you arrive at new conclusions about your problems. Now, this can work, but it takes a very, very long time. And it's not even guaranteed to work, in most cases. And so I've worked with people who've literally been in therapy for 22 plus years. And the problem is their therapists and their counselors are still coming at this from a philosophy that A, the problem will never be fully resolved, and B, that the therapist's job is mainly to be there as a sounding board for the client and to not give any concrete direction that could actually move, the client's life forward. That's a big problem. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I've got a broken leg, I want to go to a doctor that first of all knows that the leg can be healed, and second of all has a process that has worked for other people that they can implement to actually heal the leg. And the problem is most therapists and counselors don't have those things. And so this is why when we survey people who have been experiencing depression and anxiety for a long period of time, they indicate beyond a shadow of a doubt in at least 8 out of 10 situations that therapy or counseling, it has not given them strong or lasting results. At best, it has provided an opportunity for them to vent and get things off of their chest each week. And so they feel like they're able to minimize some of the pain or get through the weeks a little bit better, but they're not really creating strong and sustainable lasting results. That's a big problem. So, you compare that idea, you could spend, years or decades in therapy and still not get the actual result that you're looking for. And you can ascribe to this idea that you're always going to have this problem, or you can open yourself up to the possibility of being able to actually fully resolve it naturally, as thousands of people have done, just like you, as you can learn to do using a very simple proven process. So, if you want to understand what the process is that we use that helps people get through this in 60 days, go ahead and just comment 5 steps below, and we'll shoot you out either a free guide, or what we can do too is, if you're interested, we can set you up on a very free, no strings attached consultation and call with a member of our team, and we'd be happy to talk with you and help you identify, where has therapy not helped you, what might be some areas where you might be struggling a little bit, and then, is there anything that we can really do to help you start making some gains in literally as quickly as 48 hours. On the issue. So we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to serve you any way that we possibly can. But what's most important, regardless of whether you work with us or somebody else, you got to understand what these 2 big problems are, and you need to understand exactly what you're walking into when you try to deal with your problem with an ineffective method. So please, by all means, get help for the ones that you love that are suffering as well, and make sure you get the right kind of help that can actually eliminate the problem. So thanks so much for watching. Excited to see your comments below. Comment 5 steps below if you want us to reach out and provide you with that guide or set up a call with you, and we'd be happy to keep the conversation going from there. So talk to you soon.